This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the Sig Sauer Studios. On the Patriot Mobile Platinum microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Greg in Dallas, Texas, it's Friday, baby.
TGI.
It went right to you. Didn't know if I was going to catch you off guard with that one or not. Welcome in, brother. Usually we don't do that.
Fajita Friday.
Fajita Friday? Fajita Friday. Fajita Friday.
Fajitas.
How does Jack Daniels or something work in that?
You just pour it in a cup right next to it.
2A Bourbon Friday? Does that work?
Yeah. I guess so.
It's Bourbon Eye Day. There's something like that. 6 hour Mike is 6 hour studios are fired up for you here. The Patriot Mobile Command Center Mike is lit up for you. The studio is just busting. Oh man, good heavens. We're broadcasting live on a lot of different places out there, including Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. Make sure to check that one out. And of course, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of radio stations around the nation. Greg, if you would tell people where to participate in the chat and all that fun stuff, we'll get cracking, because we have Paul Markle, student of the gun today, and we're going to talk about the Pope.
All right. Well, a lot of people are talking about the Pope today. So
we're going to talk about the Pope today too, because we can.
Sure can. All right. If you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters over on YouTube and Rumble. On X, it's at AAR Mark to join our live chat. Download the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Paul Markle, student of the gun. How you doing, my brother?
Oh, I'm just fantastic. Fantastic.
So I have a question for you.
All right, I've got an answer.
I hope so. Should we even know what a pope thinks about my guns, my guns, and gun control? Should we even know that?
No, actually, we shouldn't. Unless he wants to tell us to sell our cloak and buy a sword. Yeah. Unless that's what he wants to talk about.
Well, there's other.
Or unless he wants to. Psalms 144:1. We could do that one. But yeah, I don't need to hear from the Pope regarding gun anything.
Yeah, there's other biblical passages relative to swords and the apostles. Up here, if you read both New Testament and Old Testament, you'll find that the apostles carried weapons. And in fact, and I do not remember the passage, but I went through it today. It was, we have two swords, talking to Jesus, who said that is enough. So yeah, but do I need to know what the Pope thinks about gun rights? I want to get into this conversation with you because it's quite fascinating. Here's why. The Pope is from Chicago. Most people who come out of any position of authority in Chicago, whatever that position is, are generally not friendly to our right to bear arms. You would agree with that, right?
Oh, you mean the criminal Cook County machine?
Yeah. Now, let me say this.
Cook County criminal machine.
I'm not putting the Pope in the Cook County political criminal machine. I don't want to go there. But I'm saying he hails from Chicago, born and raised. Okay, spent most of the last many decades of his life living overseas and doing Pope-type stuff. That's why he's the Pope. And I have no problem with that.
Well, he wasn't a Pope then. He was something else. He was a cardinal.
He was a priest and then a cardinal. He worked his way up, and good for him. Yeah. I'm happy for him. I was born and raised Catholic. Now, I have issues with the Catholic Church. I'm not going to get into all the personal reasons, but we will get into this one, because Pope Francis, in my estimation, was a globalist, socialist commie. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. And I lost a lot of respect. Although, you can think what you want. I don't care. You be whatever you want to be. That's fine. All right. But we're going to talk about it. Now, in this case, we're going to go a little bit deeper. In 2017 in Vegas, of course, we had that horrific mass shooting on the Strip. And, well, your typical gun grabber, in this case, Murphy out of Connecticut, this guy's just a lunatic. We know that. We talk about him a lot because we can, because he makes it easy, because he just hands us stuff on a platter. That's why we do it. And we want to counter the nonsense that comes from his tweets and his mouth and everything else. Well, guys, your new Pope retweeted Murphy's calls for more gun control in 2017. So the Pope apparently
Why
has
is the
enacted
Pope
Twitter.
tweeting?
I don't know. That's another thing we can go into too. I don't. Maybe does the Pope need that to communicate?
Above the whole socialist media thing?
You would think, yes. And that's my belief. I don't believe, does the Pope need Twitter? Okay, that's a whole show. We could do an hour on does the Pope need Twitter? X, formerly known as Twitter. But we'll stay focused on should I know what the Pope thinks about gun control? Now, number one comes from Chicago. Number two, retweets an anti-gun tweet. When the tweet was basically just, no more thoughts and prayers, typical nonsense from the left. No more thoughts and prayers, none of this. All right? It's time we act and do what? Something. And your future Pope from 8 years ago retweeted that. So that signals to me his thoughts on gun control. He has already sent that message. So let's talk about
his predecessor was a globalist communist. Can we go ahead and just air out the dirty laundry? The papacy has been co-opted. It was co-opted after John Paul II died. Because they installed the German Pope. They were calling him the Panzer Pope.
Yeah. I lost track of him after John Paul. I like John Paul.
They had to get rid of. I did too. Yeah. I worked for not him directly, but for the World Youth Day thing back in '93, and I got within about 100 yards of him. But the popes always, like, for the entire history of the papacy. Now, there might have been a couple back in the 16 or 1500s, but
back in the day,
like the last 200 years, it's a life job, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a Supreme Court nomination. You stay until you die, right? The German Pope, I remember because they were calling him the Panzer Pope, they convinced him to step down, and they installed Francis. And people with eyes to see and ears to hear and minds that are open should. And the thing is that they told us, it's normal. And he wasn't in for that long. He was only in for a few. I don't know how many years he was in, but they convinced him to step aside so they could install Francis. And then as soon as he got in, he started this globalist, garbage. This anti-gun. No person is an illegal immigrant. Of course, it was all 100% hypocrisy because the Pope is guarded by the gendarmerie, the Swiss guards, who have MP5s. I'm sure they got happy switches on them. The Vatican is not an open borders freaking city-state. You can't just go in there and camp out, can you?
No, it's pretty well protected.
Can you? Yeah. So they want the whole rest of the world to take down their borders and surrender their guns to their masters. But when it comes to protecting the Pope, it's cool to have people with machine guns to protect the Pope. And when it comes to keeping out the riffraff, they keep the riffraff out of the Vatican.
Ask me if I believe the Pope should be protected by machine guns. Ask me.
Go ahead. Should the Pope be protected by the machine guns?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with me not being able to protect myself with machine guns.
Exactly.
That's my problem.
It's hypocrisy.
That's the hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy.
It's age old. And it is. It's age old. Okay, this goes back, many, many, many years. Okay, for me, not for thee. Okay.
Well, you remember when the Catholic Church decided that the priest was going to drink the wine on behalf of the congregation?
I don't remember that. There's a lot.
Oh, you don't remember that?
No.
Oh, that was during the Holy Communion. There was a time in the Catholic Church that someone said, "Well, what if And that's when they used to drink it from a chalice. Mm-hmm. What if one of the these peasants spills the blood of Christ?" And we can't risk that. So there was a time in the church when they're like, well, the priest is just going to take it for you. You don't remember that, do you?
No, and like I said, we're getting ready to take a break.
My dad was raised Catholic.
Hold on to that.
The Catholics are all squirming in their seats right now.
Hold on to that for a second. We're getting ready to take a break. It's funny how you can hear the listeners sometimes, right? But we're getting ready to take a break. We'll continue the conversation, and it's all centering around this, ladies and gentlemen. Should we even know what a pope thinks about your right to keep and bear arms? Now, the simple answer in my mind is no, we should not. Although he is entitled to think whatever he wants to think, that's fine. But I'll tell you why it's very dangerous, even more so now, Paul, when we come back from this break, with the Pope being American and being from Chicago. I'll explain that. At least I'll give you my opinion. You can agree with me or disagree. That's your prerogative. But we are going to continue the conversation with Paul Markel, student of the gun. Should we know what a Pope thinks about our gun rights? We'll be right back. Don't go away. The following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. Patriot Mobile phone here in my fingers if you're watching on your devices. We do appreciate that. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for tuning in. But that is a Patriot Mobile phone. You can activate a Patriot Mobile phone by simply calling Patriot Mobile. It's real simple to do. Make it easy for you. patriotmobile.com/AAR. Bam. Pretty much that simple. It's easy to do. And guys, like I said, it's so simple. One phone call and they'll have you on your way. It's a very, very simple process. They will explain it to you. patriotmobile.com/AAR. Don't forget ammosquared.com. Start stacking ammo like I do. ammosquared.com. More about our other great partners when we come back over the next breaks. And let's go back to Paul Markle, student of the gun. Paul, continuing the conversation, and the basic overarching theme here is, should we know what a pope thinks about our gun rights? And then the break cut us off. I want you to finish your thought, and then I'll tell you why I think this papacy is going to be much more dangerous from a gun control standpoint than any previous in history, and I'll explain why I believe that.
Well, I think that like the Democrat Party, the Catholic churches have been on a slippery slope for quite some time. As far as their base is concerned, and I know that there are some people that will never, they'll never do anything other than what the church tells them to do. But Americans tend to not like activists. Well, I don't know, maybe they do, but tend to not like activist priests or popes or what have you, and. It's kind of like what they're doing right now. What Napoleon said, never interrupt your enemy while he's making a mistake. Mm-hmm. Just let them keep talking. Go ahead. Let them keep talking. Let them keep marginalizing themselves. And if he wants to, go over to Italy and hang out in the Vatican and yak all that socialist garbage, then go for it. Go for it.
Well, there's his brother, of course, here in America, gave a pretty interesting backstory. The Pope's got a pretty interesting backstory. He from the time he was 8 years old, he's wanted to be in the church priest. And in elementary school, I think when he got out of 8th grade, he went right into seminary. I mean, talk about a dedicated individual. Wow. Mm-hmm. If you know anything about what that entails, ladies and gentlemen, that's not an easy decision to make. And he made it pretty easy at a very, very young age. In fact, there were people talking about, looking back in hindsight, it's always easy to look back in the rearview mirror and reflect, because we see things in high definition in the rearview mirror. We have a clear picture of what occurred for the most part. And in this case, there were a number of people around him that said, look, he's on the track to be Pope one day. And lo and behold, he was. It's interesting. It's an interesting backstory. But let me tell you why I think this is so dangerous, because he is already, when you're retweeting Chris Murphy out of Connecticut, you've pretty much laid your position out for everybody to see. And that tells me everything I need to know. Now, as we talked about over the last couple of days, folks, people change their minds. So I don't know. We'll see if that happens. But usually when it comes to something like gun control, no. And when you've got a brother who is telling the media that he believes he's going to follow in the footsteps of Francis, and both Paul and I just described, in our own opinion, what we thought of Pope Francis. No disrespect to the Pope. I'm just telling you what I thought his globalist viewpoints were politically, and I shouldn't know those things. That's my feel. But in this case, apparently he harbors progressive globalist views, and he's made it clear with that retweet in Vegas. Now, Paul, we're going to have another tragedy in this country. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. It will happen. There are bad people that do evil, bad things. Nobody knows that more than the Pope.
Yeah, they're called Democrats.
Yeah, but when it comes to gun control and our gun rights, this issue, when you have a Pope that has made his position clear and he's American, wait till there's another tragedy in the United States of America, and you're going to see this Pope get a heck of a lot more coverage than any other Pope did, because he's American, because he's from Chicago. The media is going to eat it up. And it's just going to be another battlefront that we've not had to face. We've generally, we've never really had to do battle against a Pope. I have a feeling that might change, because I have a feeling this Pope being American and letting his views on gun control be known with that tweet. Now, there may be more.
Maybe he's rescinded that. Maybe he doesn't agree with that anymore. I haven't seen anything to show me that. But nonetheless, the media is going to cover what the Pope thinks, this Pope thinks, more than they've ever covered any Pope, particularly when it's a gun control-related issue.
As you bring up an interesting point, the socialist American news media that does the bidding of the agnostic, Democrat Party, they could give, two fat rats rear ends about Christians, unless it's like when they were giving media attention to Francis when he would say things like, when he was attacking Donald Trump during the first administration, and when he's talking about the border wall and how unchristianly it was to have a border wall. Of course, the hypocrisy was just right there in your face. You're like, well, I'm going to go to the Vatican and I'm going to move in there and stay there and live, and they're going to feed me and pay for everything for me. It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They're not going to do that. And, the richest organization, probably, the amount of wealth that the Vatican is sitting on top of, to tell the United States of America that it's our Christian duty to steal money from the citizens and to give it to non-citizens. It's just the hypocrisy. It's unbelievable.
Well, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I don't at all. I find it a fascinating conversation. But if you want to go back to the teachings of Christ, when you want to talk about self-defense, okay, I could easily make the argument for you that Jesus was murdered and did not defend himself. Okay? Jesus did not take up arms to defend himself, nor did his apostles. He could have, but he did not. And we know Jesus as a historical figure. We know what happened. It's real. Okay? Jesus was real. We know the history of what happened. We know where it happened. So there's conflict in Scripture there. But leaving that behind us, because that's a theological, debate that we're not going to answer on this show, I can promise you that. It's a little bit above our pay grade. But at the same time, when we just fast forward now to the Pope in 2025, who has made his political position clear with just that one tweet, that signals to me what I said at the outset of the program, or at the outset of this segment anyway, is that I think we're going to see more from this Pope on a gun control issue than we've ever seen before. And it will carry far more weight, at least in the Democratic Party and in the mainstream media, who are all one and the same, by the way. So expect that to happen. It's going to happen. 30 seconds.
Carry any weight in the Democrat Party when they essentially spit upon Judeo-Christian values.
Oh, well, Joe Biden, Catholic, okay? Nancy Pelosi, give me a break. These people are the antithesis of Catholicism, yet they get all the coverage. They get to say whatever they want because the media lets them say it. Meanwhile, well, I don't know, were they going against the church's teachings previously under the previous pope? Who knows, okay? Again, bigger questions than we have even time to get into here on the program. But when we come back, I want to Google up gun control today with Paul live on the show and see what happens. And we'll pick it apart. We have 2 more segments to go with the student of the gun, the professor himself, Paul Markle. We'll be right back.
Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Defense is freedom, passion, and precision. Great to have you with me today on a Friday, Fajita Friday, according to Greg today. We're in the 6 Hour studios with you. Got a really cool, leather 6 Hour hat going on over here. Can't wait to get up and broadcast with those guys. Always fun. Patriot Mobile Command Center microphone lit up for you. Yeah, indeed. Welcome back, guys. Always a pleasure to have you here. Please go out of your way. Please support us on all of our social media platforms. We need your help in rebuilding that. They were not real kind to us for a number of years because of the things that we talked about. So, how do you combat that? You win. That's how you win. Follow me over on Twitter at AARMark, and many thousands of you do, but we need more of you, okay? If you're watching the show, repost the show. It's real simple. Just hit the little repost button, okay? And help us. We need your help to do that. And we also need your help supporting our partners that make it all possible every single day. And you can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Used my Emerson knife 3 times again today. That's how, that thing, I use that thing every single day. Emerson knives. Pick one up, AAR promo code, get 10% off on a super high quality Emerson knife, and you'll wonder, wow, how come I don't have more of these? You might even become a knife collector. It can happen. It's pretty easy. Just like me with my goat guns. GoatGuns.com. Got the RPG sitting right over here, Greg. I was kind of playing with that thing today. It's really cool. All spring-loaded and stuff, and it actually functions like a little mini RPG, That makes me wish I was a little kid again. I'd have so much fun with that stuff when I was a little kid if I had those goat guns at that time. But anyway, you can bring your inner kid out. GoatGuns.com. GoatGuns.com. All of our partners, find them at armedamericanradio.com. Paul Marco, student of the gun, welcome back in, brother. You want to wrap up on the Pope and the church and all that stuff and that basic premise?
Yeah,
even know.
when it comes to that, it's kind of like your elementary school teacher. Children should not know their elementary school teacher's sexual preferences or political preferences, right, or anything like that. That's has nothing to do with that. And then when it comes to the Pope, it should be the same way. He should represent Judeo-Christian values, the 10 Commandments. Love thy neighbor, but when it comes to political stuff like that, I don't want to hear from him. And the great news is, I don't need a pope to access God.
No,
and neither do you.
No, billions of Christians around the world don't have a pope. Catholics have a pope. Now the pope is kind of for the world, right? But that's what concerns me. That's what concerns me. There's going to be a tragedy. We're going to see. We're going to see if I'm right. We're going to see if I'm right, but I almost guarantee it because I know the media. And I know the Democrats. And when it happens, Pope's going to have a bigger voice because he's American when it comes to your gun rights, ladies and gentlemen, than any Pope ever in thousands of years. Mark my word. We'll be talking about it. Hopefully not. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully no evil acts, but evil will act. It always does. Paul, it just kind of is what it is. We're fitting to find out. Newsweek, and I Googled gun control during the break here, and here's some of the top headlines. I haven't dug into any, but Newsweek, what Pope Leo XIV has said about abortion and gun control.
Is that what they're calling him?
Yeah, Pope. Yeah, he took the name Pope Leo XIV. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and that headline.
That's nice for him.
Well, let's go to that headline for a second. What Pope Leo XIV has said about abortion and gun control. Abortion, obviously, the Pope's going to talk about that, Catholic teachings, etc. Okay? And this is where Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them get themselves in a wad, bunch of hypocrites. But gun control, what has the Pope said about abortion? That's a Newsweek headline, folks. That's not what I want to hear from the Pope. Since when do Pope and gun control belong in the same sentence? Paul, I'm just saying.
So what did he say? What the Newsweek report that he said?
Well, let's open it up and see. Why it matters. Cardinal Robert Prevost, who was elected on Thursday as the first pope from the United States, and his papacy begins at a time of political tensions in the country. Okay? There's been political tensions in this country forever. Granted, they're worse now than ever before. But again, what does that have to do with the Pope? He now leads more than 1 billion Catholics worldwide, including about 53 million Catholics in the U.S. Now, let's see, what has he said about gun control? In the wake of the 2017 mass shooting in Vegas, the new Pope reposted a statement from Cardinal Blaise Kupich, who I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I don't know if I am, that called for, quote, increased access to mental health care and stronger, sensible gun control laws. That day, He also reposted a statement, here we go, from Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, who wrote on X, "To my colleagues, your cowardice to act cannot be whitewashed by thoughts and prayers. None of this ends unless we do something to stop it." So there you have it.
So how was he talking about mental health regarding the Vegas thing?
That's what it says. It says in the wake of the 2017 mass shooting in Vegas.
Together? How did access to mental health care, how does that stop deep state agents from committing mass murder?
Who all of a sudden disappear from the FBI's radar screens, or at least ours anyway.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know what that original tweet said in its entirety. So I'm just quoting that from Newsweek. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll give Newsmax credit for maybe getting it right, but whatever. Yeah, it's curious to me. Newsweek. I'm sorry, Newsweek. Yeah, it's interesting that they would bring that up. They're like, we need better access to mental health care. Then every Democrat should be disbarred of ownership from a firearm. Did you see the latest story about how the FBI intentionally obfuscated, lied, and changed their story about the attack on the Republican softball practice?
Yeah, no, really, the FBI lied? Really? Was the ATF involved with that too?
And then they when they decided to change it from he was a whack job to he was an extremist. I was like, yeah, he was an extremist. He was an extremist Democrat. He was an anti-Republican. He was one of these. He was one of unhinged leftists.
Yeah,
and but no, that just happened. The United States Congress just had hearings, and they discovered that the FBI was just like saying whatever they thought that they should say to further the agenda.
Well, that's
truth be damned.
Yeah, pretty much. We've known that for a long time. A lot of government entities doing that. I do want to comment here. Again, I'm looking at this Pope thing from as you were talking. I was glancing at this Newsweek piece. Like his predecessor, he will have the ability to reshape the church's approach to a range of social and political issues. So, yeah, again, headline surfing here, okay? We don't have enough time to get into it, but that's why I asked that question at the outset. Should we even know these things? Maybe some political things we need to know about when it comes to geopolitics and wars that impact, Catholics around the world in war-torn areas. Okay, I'm all about the Pope going poverty. That's fine. That's what popes do. I have no problem with that. But I have a problem with it if they feel they should take my money to support poverty or to try to fix poverty, as if it's a zero-sum game.
Well, yeah,
somehow the oligarchy.
The socialist mantra is
right. That's where I'm going with that.
We need you to take. I have this great idea, and I need you to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to watch the gun control issue on this one very, very carefully, ladies and gentlemen. I have a sick, sad feeling I'm going to be right about that. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be. Chicago, Pope, Chicago, Democrats, media, gun control. All right. Retweeting anti-gun tweets. All right. I don't think I'm going to be wrong on that. When we come back from the break, we'll go over some more of the gun control stuff over here. Looks like there's some pretty interesting headlines here, and we'll take a look at a couple of them. It looks like North Carolina, yet again, made another great move relative to Second Amendment issues regarding their permit process, loosening restrictions with lifetime concealed carry permit. Yeah, we'll talk about that because permits are unconstitutional anyway, and fortunately, better than half of the states have figured that out through constitutional carry. So, hey, remember, the Second Amendment doesn't give us a right. It recognizes a right. When we come back, we'll wrap up Friday episode of Armed American Radio Network's Daily Defense here from the Sig Sauer Studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom. We'll be back right after this with Paul. One more to go.
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
Final segment on Friday's Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Hope you're looking forward to a good fun weekend. Hope you got some decent weather out there. It's that time of year. Love this time of year. Me, Greg, I need some salt air and some palm trees rustling in the breeze. I'm just feeling that right now. You know, and coming from Florida and missing it. I got to get me back down home. I just got to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. 6 Hour Studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today. Patriot Mobile Command Center. Microphone lit up for you. On-air lights are on right out there at that window. Somebody drives by, they can see it. Fortunately, not a lot of people drive by. I know when they do. But if they do, they see it. It says on air. It's right there. Great having you with us. Please go out of your way. Visit all of our partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Barrel Buddy. Check them out. Clean your guns the right way. Pitch the patch. That's old news. 6 Hour Academy carries the Barrel Buddies. There's a reason for that, okay? They're the best. They work. I use them all the time. Rifles, handguns, doesn't matter. Use them all the time. BarrelBuddy.com. The things are $14.98 for a pack, and 20 cleanings out of it, you're good to go. It's pretty much that simple. All right? Make sure to check them all out. You can find all of our partners, all of them, at armedamericanradio.com. Paul Markle, student of the gun, welcome back. One segment left with you. I
Yes,
left.
sir.
The last mention I gave was North Carolina, so let's go there. This is from the North Carolina, the News and Observer. NC House votes to loosen gun restrictions with lifetime concealed carry permit. Is that loosening gun restrictions? I guess it could be looked at that way, right?
I guess the extortion, the price of extortion is going down.
The price of extortion is going down. Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's extortion.
It is.
When a government says, well, you can have your rights if you come to us, give us money, ask nicely, then if you do all those things, then we'll allow you to have your rights. That's extortion.
Yeah, it is extortion.
It's an extortion scheme. When the government says, let's not, dance around the subject. Permission slips, is it a right or is it not a right? And if it's not, then okay, it's a privilege. But if it's a right, people are like, Second Amendment's my right, it's an absolute right. Okay, then why do you have to pay the government to get a permission slip?
No, hold it.
A right.
Hold it. There's a better question. Why do you pay the government to get a permission slip?
Yeah, why does the government expect you to give them money? And that's extortion.
If
So
you don't have to pay them for the permit.
As long as you give us money.
You don't have to pay them for the permit. You can still carry your gun without a permit. Oh, but wait. There's a law. That's right. See, that is in fact extortion. I do want to point out, I just glanced down here because when I pulled up gun control, the stream, the brew, new Pope Leo XIV, American who opposes border control but favors gun control. New Pope Leo XIV is still an unknown quantity, but his social media posts suggest he's an open borders globalist. That falls in line with what I read from his brother, who says he's going to continue the work of Pope Francis. Now, does that?
Of course he is.
He's going to continue the work, maybe within the church.
They
but politically,
they co-opted the papacy by kicking out the German Pope so that they could install a big government globalist. They're not going to change course just because Francis died. They're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's step away from the big government globalist. It's like, no, they installed somebody that is going to continue down that road. It makes perfect sense if you're them. If you look at it, and I don't have any active Catholics that are in my sphere of influence anymore, but the whole thing with brooming out the John Paul's successor so they could install Francis, so he could go out and spout all this big government, socialist globalist nonsense.
Pope John Paul was widely loved.
He was the last good pope.
He pretty much stayed out of a lot of these issues. And I saw some tweets from some leftists out there today. Now that the Pope is woke, watch MAGA go nuts. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll watch the gun control aspect of that. Here's another one from today, breaking today, and I did want to get with you on this one, but federal gun ban on felons is constitutional appeals court rules. Do you have any idea who that appeals court might be? Oh, it would be the Ninth Circus. Yeah, the largest federal appeals court, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, if you listen to the show often enough, is the Ninth Circus. That we refer to the circuit as the circus because they're just a joke. They are the most overturned circuit in America by the Supreme Court. But the gun I'll quote from here in real time with you. I've not read it, so we'll just go here. This is coming from Bloomberg Law. The country's largest federal appeals court on Friday upheld a federal law banning nonviolent felons from owning guns, ruling that it doesn't infringe the Second Amendment's right to bear arms. Oh, so they're saying ban is compliant with standards set by Bruin decision. And it was an en banc panel. So here we go again, Paul, with they just ignore and rewrite what they want, and it's like they just bait the Supreme Court to have to overturn them again.
Well, isn't there a prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment?
Yeah, but that's subjective, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like saying, well, we're gonna incarcerate you, and there are some people that need to be incarcerated. Yeah. But the punishment is supposed to be the time served. But then it's like, well, yeah, but in this instance,
we're going to ban you for life.
Yeah, and not just felons. Don't forget the what was that dead scumbag senator? The domestic violence misdemeanors.
You're talking about Lautenberg Amendment.
Yeah, that dead scumbag, Frank Lautenberg. He is dead, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure he's being roasted by Satan right now. But it's like, so then they're like, even misdemeanors and brothers and sisters, that is one of the most egregious violations and overreaches. If it was really terrible, it would be a felony. But a domestic violence misdemeanor is literally your neighbors calling the cops because you two are screaming at each other, right? Mm-hmm. And
how many of those did you respond to as a cop?
Oh, innumerable.
Countless.
And one of you is going to jail, right? Because that's the standard. Someone's going to jail.
30.
And if you don't fight that, you could be I had one situation where it was a 21-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman.
Yeah, 27.
Young couple. And anyway, this guy pled. They convinced him to plead to a domestic violence misdemeanor. He's 21 years old. He lost his gun rights for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and now that appears also to be at odds with what's coming out of the DOJ, so we're going to watch that. Meanwhile, in the great state of Texas, the Lone Star State, where right on a bottle of Lone Star beer, it says the national beer of Texas. Gotta love Texas. Texas legislature makes move toward banning red flag gun laws in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I do want to give you a little announcement here. Sunday, upcoming, the new executive director of the National Rifle Association will be joining me on the program. I'm not sure specifically what time, but we talked earlier today, and we're working on making that happen for this Sunday, which will be 2 days from now. So, and I'm so thrilled to see the direction that the NRA is going. Believe me, I cannot wait to bring him on the airwaves. Armed American Radio is not going to get up and do it again tomorrow. And Paul, thank you for being here. We love you at Student of the Gun. And I'll give that website out, sotgu.com. You can start training online, and studentofthegun.com. But guys, we'll be back on Sunday. Until then, enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there, please, and never leave your cave without your club. We'll see you on the radio in 2 sleeps.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American Radio Network.
Okay. That's iced. We'll call it coffee. There you go. Hey, guys, thanks for being here today. Appreciate it very, very much. And thank you for supporting all of our partners. Please visit them and support them. They make the show possible every single day. We couldn't do it without them. And yeah, Doug is going to be with us on Sunday, I believe. It looks like that's pretty solid from the NRA, and I can't wait to have a conversation with him. We're going to hopefully be able to keep him for a solid hour. I have a just an idea that I think he's going to become a good friend of the program, and the NRA, it appears, is moving in the right direction, and that's a great thing. That's positive for us. So interesting conversation with Paul today. Hope you all enjoyed it. Visit our partners, armedamericanradio.com. Like us on social media. Please repost these posts. We do appreciate that very much. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure to follow me over on Twitter, at AARMark, at AARMark. And again, repost everything that you see on social media. You can also follow us over on YouTube. We'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe over there. Rumble, help us get that social media back as we continue to grow across the social media platforms. We do need your help in doing that. All right, guys, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Have a good one. Yeah, cut loose a little bit. It's a weekend. You've earned it. Trust me. I'll see you on the radio on Sunday, excuse me.